Good morning, everybody. I'm Charlie Bengal. Welcome to our Dominate Speaker Series. This morning, I'd like to welcome back Coach Jackie Leavenworth, pricing management and negotiation strategist. Jackie Leavenworth's humorous, engaging style delivers distinct and unique strategies taken from over 30 years of award-winning success as a top producer, a manager of a large real estate brokerage, and an in-demand international presenter. Coach Jackie brings skill enhancements and dialogues to life with insights from her extensive training in disc behavioral patterns and her spot-on observations about people and communication. So with that, Jackie, hey, it's always good to see you. The floor is yours. Welcome.
You too, Charlie. Thanks. And what an introduction. All right. So welcome, everyone. Thanks for being here. And I am going to get rolling because we have a lot to do in an hour here. The title of today's presentation is 6 Deadly Pricing Mistakes. And I promise you that as I go through these 6 deadly pricing mistakes, you will see yourself making them because I wrote it as a result of my making them. And so, we could also call this the 6 deadly avoidable pricing mistakes because I'm going to not just tell you what the mistake is, I'm going to help you figure out how not to make that mistake again. And they're really common. Oh my gosh. So let's get going to the next slide and start with mistake number 1. Mistake number 1 is mismanaged expectations. So let me start with this thought. I have never seen a relationship break down. And I don't care whether that's a marital relationship, a parent-child relationship, a real estate seller-realtor relationship, 2 realtors to get real. It doesn't matter. It's always because someone had an expectation that was not met. That's really the bottom line of personal challenges. And if you think about it, our job would be a whole lot easier if we didn't have to deal with people, but then we wouldn't have a job. So we have to deal with them and we have to manage these expectations very well. So let's go to the next slide and talk about something. We're going to do like interactive here. So what I want you to do is take your dominant hand and put it up around your eyebrows like a scout, just like this, and repeat what I'm about to say. Uh-oh, high seller expectations. So let's go. Uh-oh, high seller expectations. And then don't put your hand down because I'm not done with you. Jackie, if you'll hit that click button for a moment, we're going to take our other hand, put it down. I'm not tall enough. You can't see. I'm going to put it down around my belly button. I'll move it up here so you can see it. And now we're going to say, oh no, low seller reality. So this was, uh-oh, high seller expectations. Oh no, low seller reality. Now let me tell you why I bring those 2 things in. We meet with sellers who have high expectations, particularly in a market like we're in at this moment, where, after the recession and things were getting back to normal, right at the end of the recession, we had the sellers right where they needed to be. They were in a sense of reality. And then it got better and it got better. And now it's like multiple offers, houses are flying off the shelves. And so what's happening is the seller's expectations are going up really, really fast because of that. When we have a seller with expectations of what they can get for their home that doesn't match the market, it creates an issue. And we need to be very, very aware of that. So let's just take a seller for a moment that has to have, well, in your market, probably, $800,000 for their home. And they have to have it. And you know why they have to have it, because they paid this, put this much in it. They're not about to lose money, or because the neighbor got that much and their house is so much nicer than the neighbor's, or they're going to move over to this place. And if they can't get 800 for theirs, they can't buy their 1.5 over here. And so why would they sell anyway? I mean, they're all the same, right? They need that out of their house. And if we take it at 800, even though after our research, we know that that home won't sell for a penny over 675, 710, maybe. We know that, but we take it because, hey, we need listings right now. Inventory is short. We want listings. If we take it at 800, the seller's expectation is 800. And then when we tell them how beautiful their home is, we drive it even higher, that expectation even higher, to think it'll be 800 in a matter of days, because that's what's happening. So now they want 800 in a matter of days. Their reality, they get $700,000 for their home 4 months later. So, Jackie, if you'll show them what's next, these sellers need Advil. They have migraine headaches. They have TMJ because they're gritting their teeth at night. They're frustrated. They're scared. They're angry. They've got all these negative emotions rolling around because they had this expectation and got this. So within our hour today, my job is to help you bring the seller's expectations closer to the market reality in a way they still like you and want to list with you. Now, let me say that one more time. We want to bring that expectation closer to market reality in a way they still like you and want to list with you. The reason I say that is because many times we're very afraid to tell the seller about the reality of the market if it doesn't match theirs. Excuse me, because we are so afraid that if we tell them the truth, they won't list with us. They will list with some other agent who didn't tell them the truth. So here we go. All right, Jackie. I know my name's Jackie, and we've got Jackie on the other end controlling these slides. So expectation, where do they get it? Now, if we were in a live class and you could answer me, I'm guessing you just might say Zillow is one of them. Get it from the neighbors, everything else. All right, Jackie, let's go. So I found this on the web. I loved it. This was me sitting on Santa's lap, and he says, "What do you want for Christmas, kid?" I said, "I want a dragon." He said, "Come on, Jackie, get realistic." All right, well, click. So I said, "Okay, well, then give me an accurate Zestimate." Click. And Santa says, "What color do you want that dragon?" Because literally, when I bring up Zillow, I'm sure a lot of eyeballs are rolling because Zillow isn't overly accurate. So we really need to figure out how we can talk to sellers about Zillow. Avoiding it doesn't work because they've been there. They've seen their Zestimate. And let me tell you this, if a seller sees a Zestimate for $800,000 and your market analysis comes in at 700, they want to believe Zillow, not you and me. They want to believe the high number. So one of the main tenets of negotiation is this: people believe what they author, and people believe what they discover. So one of the tricks is for us not to try to convince the seller that Zillow is wrong, because their little seller talk will sound something like this: "Yeah, she just wants to sell my house for 700 so she can get a quick sale and get paid." And I'm telling you, that's it. So what we need to do is master the art of allowing people to discover for themselves if Zillow is inaccurate. So what I've done, Jackie, we put the next slide up, please. Here's what I've done, because we've got an hour here, so I can't really take you live on a field trip to Zillow. But if you will, and take a picture with your phone of this shot if you want, or write this down. You go to my website, which is coachjackie.com. When you get there, you will see a little navigation button at the top that says freebies. I mean, our mouse kind of finds that really quickly because it says free. And then under that, there's videos, free videos. The first video you're going to see is talking to sellers about Zillow. And you will see me live just like this. So I will be there, and I will be sharing my screen, walking you through the screens of Zillow so that the seller can go find their home, and then they can look at this estimate, and they will find a data chart that you're going to teach them to go to. And the data chart will tell them how accurate or inaccurate Zillow happens to be in their area, which is fabulous, because you see Zillow On the main screens of Zillow, it drills down to major metropolitan areas. If you actually download an Excel spreadsheet, which they're not going to do, you can get as far down as a county, but that's as far as it goes. So here's what we need to get really good at. Let them see Zillow's accuracy in the metropolitan area, and then coach them on the fact that real estate is local, and then it is price point specific. And when I say local, I don't even mean school district. I mean community or neighborhood. Subdivisions have their own character, right? So it's that local, and then it's price point specific, because you could be in one community, if you will, and the 800 to $1 million price point is moving one way, and the 350 to 5 is moving another way, and the 1 to 1.2 is moving. Buyers are buying different price ranges at different speeds. Zillow can't do that for them, but you can. So that is a wonderful way for them to learn that they need you. So go watch that video. You can watch it as many times as you want until you master the art of helping the seller go find this information on their own with you. It's really cool. All right, Jackie, let's move on. So the expectation creation beyond that, beyond Zillow, beyond what the neighbor got, beyond what they paid, I have a theory, because I've done it myself and seen it over and over again in observation, that we as real estate professionals sometimes elevate the seller's expectation and didn't even mean to. So Jackie, would you show the next little picture here? This is an example of a coupon that I get in my value pack coupons that come to my house. It comes every month. Now, the realtor who put this together is a very good realtor. She's been in the business a long time. This is what her coupon says. How much is your home worth in today's market? So the word worth in this coupon scares me to death, and we use it all the time. So, and Jackie, if you want to hit the clicker, I think it'll circle that word worth for us. Yeah, I really want you to hone in on that. The word worth in a seller's mind suggests that that is the value of their home. That is what their home is worth. And then they relate it to the price. We'll talk about that a little later. Price, worth, and value in a seller's mind, they're all synonymous. They think they're the same. Now, if you go to the dictionary, they're not. They're very different. But in a seller's mind, they're the same. And here's the truth. You and I cannot tell a seller what a home is worth in the future. We don't know. In fact, there's one moment in time where worth is actually established on a piece of real estate. That moment in time is so important that it gets time stamped. The moment it closes at the courthouse. And that single moment that is at this moment, that is what the home's value was. That is what the home was worth. We have no idea until that moment what it's worth. And that worth or value only lasts for a short while, because think about it. It just closed at 7:24. And 3 hours later, another home similar that an appraiser would pick up as a comp just closed for 7:15 down here. Well, what happens to your listing? Now one comes in at 7:30. And it goes like this. We don't know. And the fact that we are trying to get that crystal ball out there, telling people what their home is worth, is putting us on the hot seat, because when it doesn't work, they hold us responsible for that. I want to get you out from under that burden today. All right, Jackie, let's go. So one of the tricks, and I shouldn't call it a trick, one of the skills really is to know what the seller is thinking. So I'm going to give you some dialogue to use on the phone. So let's show them the dialogue, Jackie. This would be on the phone before I ever go on a listing appointment. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm going to be doing a lot of research for you before we meet. Now, while I know your market very well, In fact, I usually say, but the screen didn't have room for it. While I know your market very well, in fact, like the back of my hand, because I want to assure them that I really know their marketplace. While I know your market area very well, in fact, like the back of my hand, I also know that every property has its own unique selling advantages. And I haven't had the opportunity to see your home. So tell me, what price range would you suggest I use to begin my study? Now, this is almost magical because we have for so many years said to a seller, so what do you think your home is worth? Well, there's that word. If they tell you, that's great, but most of them won't. Most of them will say, well, isn't that your job? Isn't that why we have you coming in to tell us? And so it backfires on us. This question, I will tell you my experience, 98% of the sellers will answer this with a price range. And they'll say, well, we were thinking somewhere between 775 and 800. And then my follow-up question to that is, great, thank you for sharing that. And now tell me, how did you arrive at that? Now they're going to tell you Zillow, or they had another realtor in that did a CMA, or our neighbor sold for this, or we have this in it and we're not about to lose money. You will now know their thinking and their price point, right? Just by asking this one question. It's a great question. Now I go in and I do a down and dirty CMA after they give me their range to see if they are realistic or nuts, because I need to know that before I go in that house and talk to these people. It is so very important that I have a feel for that. So Jackie, let's go to the next slide. We're going to go to mistake number 2. Mistake number 2 is using misleading words. So everything I'm doing today is centered around that mistake number 1, bringing expectations closer to reality. So first, we need to know their expectations and how they got those expectations. That was mistake number 1. Now, mistake number 2, let's craft our dialogue. Craft our dialogue, craft our words, and use them in a way that will make a big difference psychologically to the seller's thinking. All right, let's give them the first word. Price. I'm telling you, this is the hardest one because we have used the word price forever. But let's go back to what I said a little bit. In a seller's mind, even though this is not accurate based on the dictionary, but in a seller's mind, price means worth or value. So every time I say the word price, they're thinking worth and value. So I'm going to give you a little, it's probably going to take 10 seconds, and it's an interactive exercise. I'm going to speak to you like I used to, and that's very important that you're hearing me. Please listen carefully. This is what I used to say to sellers. Do not memorize what I'm going to say because I'm going to teach you something different. But I'm going to give you what I used to say, and I want you to count the number of times the word price comes up in my vocabulary in about 10 seconds. Are you ready? So, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, thank you for having me out tonight, and I'm excited to get a list price for your home that will excite the buyers to buy your home. What we're going to do is look at other homes that are similar to yours. And what is their asking price? What are they asking for their homes? How are they priced? Then we will look at homes that have gone under contract. How much were they priced at? And how long did it take them to get an offer? And we will also look at homes that are similar to yours that have sold in the recent past. We will look at the list price of those, what they were asking. We will also look at the sold price of those and what they actually got. Now, if we look at all of that pricing information, we will be able to make an educated decision on how to price your home this evening. Now, I couldn't count because I was talking, but I'm going to guess it was at least 7. You can put in the chat if you'd like how many you got. And know that every time I say that word, they're thinking like worth, value, worth, value, worth, value. And I don't want that because we can't determine what the worth or value will be. So I changed the word. Jackie, let's show them the new word. And by the way, I changed this in the early 1990s. I've been licensed for 37 years. I changed this in the early 1990s. So it's like 25 years that I've been doing this, and it works like a charm. I use the word position instead of the word price because price means the worth or value of the home in the seller's mind. Position simply means a place something holds in relationship to its competition. You know, my computer is sitting in the middle of my little desk area right here. It's not off to the side. It's not off to that side. It's in the middle. It's positioned right here because I have other things on this side and that side. Position is a place something holds. So if you think about it, if I were to say to the seller, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, here are the homes that are competing with you in the marketplace. And what we're going to do is position your home on this list so that your home looks more exciting to the buyers than your competition. Position the home. We're never talking about what it's worth. We position it. All right, Jackie, let's go to the next slide. So, and go ahead and click once, Jackie, because we already talked about this one. Instead of pricing homes, we're going to position them. So I'm going to suggest that you might want to practice this. And here's what I would be doing in a live class. I would have you repeat 3 times and then learn to do that over and over again. I'm never going to price a home again. I'm going to position it in the market. I'm never going to price a home again. I'm going to position it in the market. Never going to price a home again. I'm going to position it in the market. That is what's going to have to be done because that word price rolls out of our mouth like a gumball out of a gumball machine. You know, it's just like we spit it out because it's in a record groove in our mind. You've got to reprogram your mind for this, but it's worth it. So the next one is list price. Now, if the word price means worth or value in a seller's mind, then list price means if I put that number on my house, that's what my house is worth. And then when they're not getting offers, they wonder why, especially if you and I, the realtor, especially if we nail down what that list price is, oh man, they hold us responsible. So instead of list price, here's the term that I gave it 25 years ago. Works like a charm. All right, Jackie, the unveiling. I call it the initial market position. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, our job tonight is to establish an initial market position for your home that will attract today's buyers. All right. So now price is not a point. It's a process. You and I know that, but the sellers don't. The sellers think that price is a point. That is the worth. That is the value. That's what we're supposed to get. We know it's a process. We put it out in the marketplace. The market, which is the buyer's agents and buyers, respond. And if they don't respond in a way that'll get the sellers where they need to go on time, then the seller can respond to the market. Okay? Position the home. The market responds. Read the market's response. If it's not working in the seller's best interest, then the seller can respond to the market. So how does the seller respond? Should we do a price reduction or drop the price? I want you to think about that real carefully. If price means worth or value, and you're asking them to drop the price or reduce the price, what you're really asking them to do in their mind is reduce the worth or value of their home. Do you see how this all sets up? Oh my gosh. So let me tell you about a seller who we started at $200,000. We took the house to 190. When I suggested that we, in my old days, drop the price to 180, the seller looked at me and said, I already gave away $10,000. I'm not giving away another $10,000. And there you have it. The seller believes every time you ask them to drop the price or reduce the price, they're giving away their equity. They're altering the worth because of these words that we have used for all these years. So instead of price reduction, ta-da, let's do the unveiling, Jackie. Let's just reposition the home. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, here's the list of homes that are on the market competing with you. Here's yours. The response from the market isn't getting you where you want to go on time. It's frustrating for me. And if it's frustrating for me, I know it's frustrating for you because it's your life. So what we need to look at is where on this list would you like to reposition your home to try to get a better response out of the market? Not once have I talked about value or worth, because I'm not using the word price or worth or value. We reposition. We just move it on the list. We move where it is amongst its competition. Very easy. Now, the other thing when we're talking about the pricing side of things and our CMA, whatever, is the term active listings. We use that all the time. That's what the MLS calls it. They're active listings. But we don't have to say that just because the MLS calls it that. Because what I realized, and I realized this in the recession, it was 2009, I believe, 2009, 2010, when the market was really dipped, at least for us. You guys didn't take the hit. The rest of the country did so much. But I was talking about active listings with a seller. And then I just started laughing and I said, oh my gosh, these aren't active listings. She said, what do you mean? I said, well, active suggests there's activity. And honestly, most of these homes haven't been shown more than once every 3 or 4 weeks. So there's not activity. They're not really active. So I gave them a new name and I will never go back. So Jackie, let's show them the new name. They're unsold properties. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, allow me to show you the list of unsold properties that are competing with you in today's market. Now, I know some of you are probably sitting there going, wow, she keeps putting this list up and there's lots of homes on it. And in our market, there's no competition because this is a rapid market. There's low inventory. Please wait, because you're going to find out why the list of competition might be longer than you think it is. And educating the sellers to that is huge. So now we've got unsold properties instead of active listings. The next is fair market value. If you think about this, we were taught fair market value in our pre-listing or pre-licensing classes. Fair market value is a big deal. Fair market value is defined as what a seller will accept and a buyer will pay at a given time in a given market. What a seller will accept, buyer will pay, given time, given market. Charlie, can you pop into the screen and play with me for a minute here? Is that possible? There you go.
Is.
Good. So I have chosen Charlie to come out and talk to me about my house. I'm thinking I might want to sell my house. And Charlie has been sending me a glossy, oversized 4-color postcard every month for 3 years. And every time it has said that he will give me a fair market value analysis on my home. So now let's go back. Fair market value, what a seller will accept, buyer will pay, given time, given market, right? So Charlie, you're going to arrive at my home and I'm going to ask you a few questions. And all I want you to do is give me a yes or a no, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so Charlie, you can give me a free, by the way, fair market value analysis on my home, right?
Yes.
Good. So Charlie, can you tell me the name of the buyer who will ultimately buy my home, yes or no?
No.
No. So you have an unknown buyer.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Charlie, can you tell me what day the unknown buyer will buy my home?
No.
So you have an unknown time.
Yes.
Charlie, can you tell me what the market conditions will be on the unknown day that the unknown buyer buys my home? I mean, like interest rates, new construction, competition, employment, all that stuff.
No.
So you have an unknown market.
Yes.
So Charlie, what I'm hearing is that you have an unknown buyer at an unknown time in an unknown market, but you're going to give me a fair market value analysis, which is what a buyer will pay at a given time in a given market. Is that correct?
Yes.
Look at his smile. So you can see how we're setting ourselves up in some cases for failure because we're promising to give them something that we can't give them. It's the crystal ball. So Charlie, thank you so much for doing that. Fair market value. Jackie, let's unveil this. I don't use that term anymore. I use the term competitive position. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I will help you establish a competitive position for your home that will get your home sold for the most amount of money in the least amount of time to get you where you want to go on time. It's a competitive position. Now, all of this will take some work, but it's really worth reframing the words that we use. Okay, Jackie, let's move ahead. We're going to go to mistake number 3, which is ignoring the true competition. So this is where when I said we're going to talk about, Jackie, in our market, low inventory, we don't have this many homes competing. Well, you'll see that you have more than you thought. All right, Jackie, let's hit the screen. This goes back to 1996 when I was one of the top selling and listing agents in my community and had to sell my own house. I was going through a divorce. Not proud of that fact, but it's part of my story. And this was my home. Now, I was smart enough to hire an agent team to come in and list my home because I didn't want to be the expert with my ex-husband. Didn't sound like a good idea to me. So we hired other experts to come in. So I'm going to really make this story quick for you, but I have a real surprise for you at the end where you can learn more about the story. So when we put the home on the market, we put the home on the market at $200,000. We had 13 showings in 3 days. Now, there are 2 things that you want to create when you position a home. Those 2 things are excitement and urgency. Excitement from the marketplace is measured by the number of in-person showings. Urgency is measured by the number of offers. So 3 days, 13 showings, we had excitement at 200,000. We had great excitement. However, on night 3, we had 1 verbal offer, and I'm quite sure that where you are, it's probably the same as where this home was in Ohio, that a verbal offer is not worth the paper that it is not written on. Because of the statute of frauds, while you can do a verbal offer, it's not enforceable or binding. So I said to the realtor at the time, Annie, you know that a verbal offer is not enforceable or binding, so let's get the buyers on paper. We are close enough. The verbal offer, by the way, was for $175,000. I said, we are close enough that we should be able to pull this together and they can get our house and I can move on. Let's get that in writing. If I had it to do over again, I wouldn't have done it that way, but I wasn't as creative about thinking out of the box back then as I am now. If I had it to do over again, I would have created a reverse offer in writing. In other words, as the seller, I would have created a purchase agreement and I would have put it out there at $185,000 and I'll lay you money. We would have sold that house for $180,000. And I know I would have accepted that and it would have been over. But I didn't do that. I asked the buyer's agent to get it in writing. While we were waiting on that, the next day, a furnace specialist came in because many of the 13 buyers had a concern about the original double burner cast iron gas fired furnace that was in the house. The house was 65 or 67 years old at the time. And they were worried about that original furnace. So my realtor recommended this old furnace expert to come in. His job was either to say, replace it, or I'm going to certify it. It's the best furnace you can use in this house until you can't get parts anymore, which would hopefully then appease the buyers. Well, the furnace man came in and what he did was allowed the gas to run too long before he relit the pilot light. And when the flame got to the expanded gas in the air, we had what was called a puff back. Thankfully, it didn't burn the house down, but it literally shot 65 or 67 years worth of black grease and soot through every piece of ductwork in the house into all 3 stories of the house. And $23,000 later, and 9 weeks later, we were able to put the house back on the market. There was black grease and soot everywhere. We had to replace carpeting, and oh my God, it was awful. $23,000, and 9 weeks later, we were able to put the house back on the market. Now, the shortened version of this whole story, because there's a long one that's really funny, like we had 7 statues of St. Joseph planted upside down in the front yard facing the house. But so there's much more to the story. The short version, the Reader's Digest version of this is, at 6 months in, my home was not sold. And my listing was up with the expert team. I brought another agent in. She said to me, Jackie, if you think, and by the way, this is the house. It was my ex-husband that said, I already gave away $10,000, not giving away another. We had gone from 200 to 190, actually the night before the furnace blew, because I told my realtor, I said, with 13 showings and 1 verbal offer, we should have had multiples and this home should be sold. We have excitement without enough urgency. Take it down to 190. She told me I was nuts, but she did it. After the furnace, after the 9 weeks, we took it down to 180 because there was a bit of a stigma now on the property. So we're at 180. I have this agent come in and she said, if you think I'm going to put this house on the market for 180, you're wrong, because you personally taught me that expecting or doing the same thing and expecting a different result is a first sign of insanity. And she said, I'm not crazy. I said, what's your plan, Michelle? She said, 157.9. I said, you've got to be kidding me. She said, no, I'm not kidding you at all. Do you want to stay here and sit in this house and babysit it, or do you want to move on with your life? I said, I don't think I can do that. She said, let me share some things with you. So she pulled out a list, looked like this, had out of the MLS, had 19 homes on it. She said, do you see these 19 homes, Jackie? She said, these 19 homes have gone under contract in Wadsworth, Ohio, which is where my home resided, and small community at that time, maybe 16,000 people. And she said, these 19 homes have gone under contract in Wadsworth in the last 30 days. The last 30 days. She said, and they're all between 150 and 2, which tells me that the buyers are buying this price range, but they have chosen not to buy yours. Now, you guys, that is a huge thing that I adopted from that experience. And I never stopped using. Every 30 days, my sellers knew what went under contract in their price range in their city to show that the buyers are buying that price range, but have not chosen theirs. She said, that's the market screaming at you. It's not talking to you. It's screaming at you, Jackie. And I put it down. She said, don't put it down. I want to share with you what's on here. So she said, number one, half of those homes that have sold are the first and second time home buyers who love your home on Woodland Avenue. This was a very stately home in a very, very like closed bid area usually. She said they love your home, but they're younger. They love Woodland Avenue, but if for the same price they can buy something else, they will. Now, I hope you're thinking that through in your head and coming out with answers. Jackie, show them what they'll buy. New construction. She said there's over 80 new construction homes available in Wadsworth between 150 and 2 right now. And they are buying those. And no, they don't have solid 6-panel doors. And no, they don't have the charm and character. But they do have jetted tubs and skylights and walk-in closets and master bathrooms, and they're buying these. It's over half the list. So my question to you is this: would you ever, in your right mind, put a new construction home on a valid CMA with a 67-year-old brick beauty? No, because it's not competition. But Jackie, click please. While it's not competition, or while it's not comparable, they're not comparable. They don't belong on a CMA. They are competition. I went to put the sheet down. She said, don't put it down. I'm not done. She said, there is another group of buyers who are buying something else. She said, Jackie, there are the people your age, the empty nesters, they love Woodland Avenue. They don't want to mow another yard. They don't want to rake another leaf. Jackie, show them what these people buy. They're buying townhouses and condominiums. They're buying HOAs. They don't want the work anymore. Now, you would never in your right mind put a condominium or townhouse on a valid CMA with a 67-year-old single family brick beauty. It wouldn't happen because it's not comparable. But Jackie, if you'll click, it is competition. So let's click again, Jackie. Here's what I want you to remember. Not all competition is comparable. So here's what I do. Jackie, if you'll click through again. What I do is run my MLS, and I want every home in the price range. So in my case, it was 150 to 200. In your case, it's going to be much higher. I look at the price range where the house will sit. If I think that house is going to sell for 710, I'll probably run 7 to 750. Or 650 to 750, maybe in that bigger price range. I look at where I think the house is going to sit, and then I think, what will buyers look for on the internet if they're wanting to buy that price? What range will they sift through in the internet? Same thing with the buyer's agents. If their buyer's going to buy this, what price range will they sift through to find the homes to see? I look at that, and then I create a list of all the unsold homes in that price point, and I don't put anything else in, nothing else. I don't care how many bedrooms. I don't care how many bathrooms. I don't care what style it is, 2-story, 1-story, bi-level split. I don't care. All I care about is how many choices within, as you can see on the screen, within a 5-mile radius of the home. How many homes in the price range exist within a 5-mile radius of the home? That is a conservative look at competition. Now, the comparables are buried in the list, but this is a conservative list of competition because you and I both know that if a buyer wants this house, they'll probably look 8 to 10 miles out, not just 5, conservative. But this is the list I run.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Dominate Your Real Estate Business, our speaker series for part 2. Here we have Jackie Leavenworth, who will discuss the remaining 3 deadly pricing mistakes. So we're really looking forward to the second half. Thank you so much, Jackie, for joining us today.
Oh, you got it. And thank you, everyone, for coming back. Sorry about the technical difficulties last time. You know, I've been reminded after that. It's the first time it's happened to me on Zoom. But it's happened to me in live presentations. And I can remember doing a 3-hour agency course in a dark hotel room with a flashlight under my chin because we had 400 people in the room who said, we don't want to come back. And so for 3 hours, I taught with a flashlight under my chin. So I think this is better than that. We were able to go live our lives and come back. So happy to be here.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. The floor is all yours.
All right. So we were laughing before you all got on here and we went live that Jackie Curiel is in the background and she's advancing my slides and her name's Jackie and my name is Jackie. So sometimes it sounds like I'm talking to myself. Jackie, next slide. But I'm not talking to myself, just so you know. So there you go. Good job, Jackie. The other Jackie. I'll call her Jackie C. So just in a recap, real quickly, to make sure that we get our minds in the space they need to be in to get those last 3 mistakes in. Mistake number 1 was mismanaged expectations. And in that, we talked about all of the ways that the sellers have their expectations built up and ways that we can get their expectations closer to reality in a way they still like us and will list with us. Okay, so that was number 1. And that's the one where we talked about all of the new vocabulary and new words. So mistake number 2 went on to the all of the words, the using position instead of price, and using unsold listings instead of active, and all of those words. While mistake number 1, we used some words, and we also talked about, I should recap this, Zillow, because you had a little bit of an assignment there to go watch the video on my website to learn how to talk to sellers about Zillow. So that was mistake number 1, mistake number 2. We were at the tail end of mistake number 3 when the power went down for me. So that was ignoring the true competition. And if you remember correctly, we started it out talking about my personal home, the home that I put on the market, and the furnace blew and this and that. And the major lesson there was when realtor number 2 came in and started showing me the market. And she showed me the pending listings, and she said 17 homes have gone under contract right here in Wadsworth, Ohio, between $150,000 and $200,000 in the last 30 days. And she said that is the market telling you that the buyers in your price range are buying, but they have chosen not to buy your home. Now, while that hurt, it was a really important piece of information for me to have. And then she started showing me what the buyers were buying. And that's where we came to the conclusion that on the next slide, not all competition is comparable. Because what we learned was that the buyers who would have bought my home, because it was in the price range they were buying, and it was in Wadsworth, Ohio, those buyers were choosing new construction over my 67-year-old brick beauty. The point being, we would never put new construction on a valid CMA with a 67-year-old brick home in an historic area of town. We wouldn't do that because it was not comparable. But what I learned through this mess was that it was competition. The buyers who had the money to buy my home bought new construction instead. And then the next message I got from her was that there were other buyers who had the money to buy my home. They were spending their money in my price range. However, they were buying condominiums and townhouses, if you recall, because while they would have loved my home, they didn't want to do the work anymore. They wanted carefree. And so they were buying condos and townhouses. Now, the lesson again, we would never, in our right mind anyway, at least I would not put a condo or townhouse on a valid CMA with a single family brick 67-year-old historic property. I wouldn't do it because it's not comparable. But it was indeed competition because the buyers who had that money to spend went and bought those instead of mine. Lesson, not all competition is comparable. So what we talked about there was we talked about running a list of all the properties that are competing, not just comps. So this is where we talked about doing a separate study, a study of competition in addition to your CMA. We're not taking your CMA away from you here at all. We still need to do it. In fact, let me sort of encapsulate it this way. When we run a CMA, we are looking at this subject property through an appraiser's eyes. This is the way the appraiser will look at it. What is sold in the last 6 months that is similar in nature? So a comp. Appraisers are going to look for comps in the last 6 months. They're going to look within 1 mile of the property. So they look close geographically. They look at similar properties. In other words, a 2-story to a 2-story, or a condo to a condo, or new construction to new construction. They're looking at similar. They're looking at 4-bedroom to 4-bedroom, and then making adjustments if they can't find them, because they want comparable or comparable, however you say it there. So that CMA is looking at the seller's home through an appraiser's eyes. What this list was all about was taking the seller's home and going within a 5-mile minimum radius of the home and running every single property that is in the price range that that home would fit in. So in other words, if we were in the high hundreds on mine, if I think like a buyer, I'm going to think, well, a buyer who would find my home would be searching 150 to 2 on the internet. And that's what the buyer's agents would be doing on the MLS as well to find a home for them to see, 150 to 2. If I've got a home that's going to be in the, 310, 320-ish area, 325 maybe even, then you know what? The buyers are searching probably 3 to 350. The bigger we get in the price ranges, the wider the range that the buyer's agents and buyers look on the internet. So what I do is a 5-mile minimum radius. And yes, that could take you to a different school system. That could take you in to a different city or town. It could. That's okay. Because if you think like a buyer, the buyer will drive within 5 or 10 miles from that subject home to find their dream home. They will. 5 miles is the minimum. You can go more. I would never go less. And then every home in the price range, regardless of whether it's a 2-story or a 1-story or a 3-bedroom or a 4-bedroom or a 2-bath or a 1-bath, I don't put any criteria in other than here's the subject home. I map the radius and I put the price point in. I want to know how many homes are available for the buyers to choose from. And let me say this to you. In this study, we are thinking like buyers. We are not thinking like appraisers. And honestly, if you think about it, with a CMA, we've only ever just looked at the appraiser side. But if you don't find a buyer, you don't need an appraiser. So we really need to look at this home through the buyer's eyes first. And then the CMA part is looking at it through the appraiser's eyes so that we know that the home can qualify for a loan. So this is a separate study. The list, by the way, you'll be seeing these lists again. You'll notice that this list does not look like something that came out of your MLS printout. Because when you run your list on the MLS, it's got like 15 columns across it. And it's really small. It's like a 6 font. If I had 30 homes competing with the seller, guess what? That list would be about that long because the MLS is so small. So I have a system of taking the information in the MLS, making it a 2-column list, street address and list price only for the unsold properties. You remember that term, right? Unsold. And on the sold properties, it's the street address and sold price. I don't even put the city or town in because you know what? It could be a different one and I don't want a reason for the seller to object to what I'm showing them. And then I export it out to Microsoft Excel and I blow up the font so that it gets bigger so that my list becomes more profound for them to look at. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, these are the homes that are competing with you. Now, so you and I know that the comps are actually buried in this list, but there's a lot more showing on the list. And that is the comps. Now, what I have done is I created a video tutorial for you on how to create this list in your MLS and then how to export it to Microsoft Excel, make it big, tape the pages together so that if there's more than one page, you drop it down like a little accordion here and you can show them all the competition and make it almost a dramatic presentation of competition, which I love. I've been doing it for over 20 years. It works on every price point and every seller. So the video tutorial, I think it was Jackie that sent it out this morning. Jackie C sent it out to all of you this morning, a link to it. It's on Vimeo. You're all welcome to watch that. And it is a tutorial where you'll see me and you'll see my screen showing you how I do these lists. So that is there for you to learn from in addition to this video. Okay. So we have our list and here's what we did. We talked about, this is when the power went out. We talked about having a list of the competition. Again, 5-mile minimum radius, every home in the price point, regardless of size, square footage, style, bedrooms, baths, it doesn't matter. I don't put any of that in. This is all the competition. So the condos are showing up on here. The townhouses are showing up. The new construction is showing up. The older homes are showing up. Everything's showing up if it's in the price range that we're studying. Because every home in the price range is actually competing with your seller. Now, oh, I see that. Oh, how smart was that, ladies? You put the Vimeo link right on the screen. Excellent. So now what a relief in today's market this kind of a study will be. Because in today's market, in most price points, we're suffering what we have coined as low inventory. We go to run a CMA and we can't find any comps. Well, that doesn't matter. There's still competition. So that opens you up beautifully to show the seller, rather than saying, oh my gosh, we have no inventory, there's nothing that we can compare your home to. Don't even go there, because here's the seller talk on that one. Woohoo, I can ask anything for my home because there's no competition, right? No, there's still competition. There may not be comps, but there is competition. This is a very freeing thing to do when you talk to a seller, so that they get a dose of reality that there is definitely competition, even if there are no comps. The buyers still have choices. All right. All right. So let's move to the next slide. There's our list right there. And on this list, this is one that I've used around classes. We had 58 unsold. Again, our list drops down like this if we have a lot. It could be in your market that even with competition, you've only got maybe 9, 12, 15. But that's better than telling the seller there's nothing competing with them. And this is not at all a stretch of the imagination. If the buyers have 15 homes to choose from in the price range, those homes are competing with this seller, regardless of the fact that it's different bedrooms or baths. I mean, hey, my husband and I were looking for a freestanding home and bought a condo. And I know that's happened to you too. In fact, we have a little thing for it. It's buyers are liars. No, they're really not. They just buy the best emotional solution for their needs. So there you go, 5-mile radius at the smallest. If you get rural, you might go bigger. Montana, we go 50 miles. So again, watch the video. It will tell you exactly how to do this. I do a sold list. And by the way, I print 2 of them. You'll learn that in the video. I print 2 of these. And I also run, this is the unsold, and I also run a sold list, which we'll talk about using in a moment. I don't bring that up right now, but I do create one that is sold and by sold price. All right, so let's move on to mistake number 4. So now we're going to get into the CMA, which is a different study. The one we just did is simply letting the seller know what's happening in the marketplace. There are this many homes competing with you for the buyer's attention. And on that list will be creating the position for your home. Do you remember that term? The initial market position will be a spot on this list where the seller wants to position their home so that their home draws the buyer's attention to them instead of all the other competition. It's just a nice little delivery. So traditional CMAs. Okay, Jackie C. So our CMAs, they are typically done one of 3 ways. This is what we call the 3-up delivery. And let's say that we found 3 sold properties that are, these are the comps now. These are not all competition. These are the comps. We found 3 sold. We found 2 unsold. We found 5 pending. Where am I now? I'm at 10. And if you do expireds, let's say you have another 3 of those, you have 13 properties. This is the 3-up where you would have a page with 3 properties on it with explanations on each. Some of us use that. Some of us use 1 page per property. And they're beautiful. They look nice. We put them in a little binder, which is why I had to have rotator cuff surgery 2 years ago, because I hit that binding machine so many times in my office, right? We have 1 page per, or we are perhaps using more of the columnar approach to our CMA, where we have the subject home in one column and then comp number 1, comp number 2, comp number 3, or whatever. Whichever one of the 3 you're using, it's not unique. It's not a point of difference because other realtors are using the same things. And the way we describe it is overwhelming. In fact, I swear CMA should stand for constant mouth action. It sounds something like this. So, gosh, I'll talk to Jackie C here. So, Jackie, oh my gosh, here, this first property. Now, this first property is very similar to yours in nature. It's just on the block. You've probably seen it. It's got 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. It's sitting on 1.5 acres. So everything's very similar to yours, which is why I picked it. Now, this home went on the market 2 weeks ago. They're asking such and such. The square footage is such and such. And we go through it. And then we go, now, let me talk to you about this other one. This one just came on last night. And we go through these 13 properties. And the seller's like, oh, you know what? They don't care. They don't care about every detail in this CMA, about each one of these homes. They don't care. Here's what they care about. How much do you think I can get for my home? And how long do you think it's going to take to get it sold? And how much are you going to charge me? That's what they really care about. And in today's world, how are you going to keep my family safe? I think we can throw a number 4 in there. That's what they care about. They don't care about every single detail of every single property. So I'm going to give you a different approach that is so much easier. Now, I will tell you that however you do your CMA, 3 up or 1 per page or columnar, whatever you do, keep doing it. It's all good. I have that with me. I do not do this. I do it, but it's in my file. I do not pull it out for them. What I do pull out for them is a different way of presenting it, using these lists that you will learn how to make on Vimeo. So let's go to the next slide and take a look at what we're going to do. So you remember this list of all competition, and I said I run 2 of them. So here's why. My first list of the unsolds is, there's nothing highlighted on it. It's just a message to the seller. Let me get the right one here. It's just a message to the seller that Mr. and Mrs. Seller, here are all of the homes that are competing with you within your price range. Now, what our job is going to be tonight is to create an initial market position for yours. In other words, you're going to hold a spot on this list where hopefully we will be drawing the attention of the buyers and the buyer's agents to your home instead of your competition. So that's our job. That's all we did with that. But now the second one of this is highlighted. Do you remember when I said that the properties on the comps are buried in this list? Well, they are. The comps are buried in this list, and you can see on the screen how I highlighted them. And here's my list right here. I highlighted them, and I'm going to move this over in front of my face. Everything's kind of backwards on this platform. You can see where I picked 3 comparable homes right here. These came out on my CMA. So I take them from my CMA, highlight them on this list, and I bracket them and say most similar. I don't call them comparable because telling a seller that their home is comparable is like telling them that their children are comparable. Doesn't work well. So the most similar. Now notice that I have another one highlighted up here up top, and it says outlier. That is a home that is actually a comp, but it's $15,000 higher than these guys. When we do a typical CMA, I've been a realtor long enough. I can say this. If I have 3 solid comps and I have this outlier up here at 15,000 more, I just throw it out and I use the ones that are blocked together. But when you present it like this, I actually like to highlight it because I know what the seller will ask me. The seller will say, Jackie, is that one's highlighted and it's $15,000 higher than these 3? Why can that seller ask more? Now is when I'll get into my file folder and I will bring out my whatever my CMA presentation is, and I look at it and I say, I've got that right here. That's 1717 Waterford Avenue. I've got all the information, and I start to read it, and I'm dead silent, but watch my face. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I just looked at everything on that home. I have it right here. And there's not one piece of evidence that suggests that the seller should be $15,000 higher than these three, which probably explains why this home has been sitting on the market for 3 months. So I think what we have here is a seller who just they haven't gotten with the reality of the marketplace. Now, do you have any other questions about this list? I don't even give them this. I just talk, and I don't go over every detail. I just look at it and make them suffer while I'm reading it, and then tell them there's no evidence. So I really like having the outlier on here. But now they can very quickly see all of these homes are competing with them out of that list of competition. These three are the ones that are most similar, closest geographically. I can tell you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, this is your toughest competition. While they're all competing with you, I can almost guarantee you if a buyer looks at yours, they'll look at these three as well. All right. Now, notice there's another list, and that's the solds. I mentioned that. And on the sold list, I do the same thing. You'll learn to do that on the Vimeo video. Boy, that's a tongue twister. And I highlight them in green. Now, the unsolds, I highlighted the comps in red because red is what you use for a stop sign, right? And my message to the seller is stop. What you need to know is the only thing that will keep you from selling is the competition. If you were the only home on the market, we'd sell very quickly in your price range, but you're not. So this is your competition. This is your really tough competition. The solds are highlighted, the comps on the sold list, because remember the sold list will be the same thing, 5-mile radius in that price range that buyers will search. So all of the competing solds show up. The comps are buried in the list. When your CMA pops out, highlight them in green. Green means go. Green means money. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, this list right here with the red is where sellers are trying to sell their home. These are competing with you for today's buyer's attention. The properties on this list have sold in the recent past, and they are, let me try to move it over here, they are green, meaning these sellers have sold their home. The green is where the buyers are buying. The red is where the sellers are trying. My question for you is, where on the red list do you want to position your home so that we can get it sold? Now, please notice something. I am not saying based on this, I think that you should price your home at. No. Number one, I'm not using the word price. I'm using the word position. Mistake number two. Number two, I am asking them where they want to position. I've given them a range. My decision is not where to position that home. My decision is whether I take the listing or not. They get to position it because we don't want to assume the burden, which is, we'll move into that on mistake number 5 in a few minutes. Okay. Where would you like to position your home? The red is where sellers are trying. The green is where buyers are buying. Now, typically, not always, but typically, I will tell you that your red lines, do you see how they're lined up here on the screen? Your list prices are typically just a hair higher in this market than the sold prices. Now, in some cases, with the market we're in multiple offers, those solds are up there. But in a typical market, your green lines are a little below your red. So when you hold them up next to each other, hold them up like that. The green is where buyers are buying. Red is where sellers are trying. Where would you like to position your home to get it sold? And then they're going to choose a spot. Let them choose. And they're going to choose a spot in one of 3 ranges. Let's go to the next slide, please. All right, there are 3 options. are going to be curious, competitive, or compelling. If they choose, and I'm going to use this because we don't have the slide anymore for this. If they choose to go up at the top like this guy did, this outlier guy, if they choose up there, I call it the curious zone. So Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I see that you are choosing to position your home in the curious zone. What I mean by that, and that's what this person has done that's been on the market for 3 months. You're more curious than serious. And you're curious, will people come and take a live look at your home? Will people make you an offer? So I call this the curious zone. Now, if they were, thank you for putting that up there. It's a good line, huh? Right? More curious and serious. If they are more serious, they will go down here in the middle of these 3 comparables, right? And I call that the competitive position. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, this is the competitive position. All right. If they really want to sell, they can go below, and I call that the compelling position. When you go below your most serious competition, you are going to be extremely compelling to the buying community. So that's my whole CMA presentation. That's it. Let's go to mistake number 5. Mistake number 5 and 6 move along pretty quickly. Mistake number 5, us setting the price. So let's go to the next slide. I already mentioned that we don't want to set the price because we don't want to assume the burden. All right. When we assume the burden, we get in trouble. When we pick the price, the seller wants to hold us responsible for the price. And if you dare come to them with an offer less than that and tell them it's a good offer, they're wondering what you're thinking because you're the one that picked the price in the first place. And now you're telling them this is a good offer. Or worse yet, you come to them and you want to reposition their home to a lower spot on the list. And it's the same house. You told us it was worth, because remember in mistake number 2, for the seller, price in their head means worth or value. Not in the dictionary, but in their head, it does. So we don't want to be responsible for that number. We want them responsible for that number. So they pick the position. We choose whether to work with them. All right, click. So I'm going to suggest we stay safe. Set expectations, not prices. Give them the range. Show them what the market's doing. All of that. Set the expectations and let them pick the position. And then when it doesn't work, it's their number, not yours. Price is not a point. It's a process. We offer a position on this house to the market. The market responds to the house. If the market isn't responding in the way that'll get the seller where they want to go on time, then the seller can respond to the market. All right, so let's go to mistake number 6. Oh, we have something, sorry, forgot this was in here. When they pick their price, I just want to make sure that you are on board with this thought process. When they pick their point, so many times, because they're used to it, they'll do a $399.9, $299.9, $349.9, $324.9. They go with those 999s. I would not do that. Not at all. We are not selling gas. We are not selling clothes. We are selling houses. If they want to go $399.9, take them up $100 to an even $400 so that you can double their exposure on the internet. If they're at $400, everyone who searches, buyers, agents, and buyers, 350 to 4, is going to see that home. And every buyer's agent and buyer who searches 4 to 450 is also going to see the home. But if they're at $399.9, the buyers, agents, and buyers who search 350 to 4 will see that $399 home. But anyone searching 4 and up has no idea that home exists. It is invisible to that marketplace. The important numbers are going to be the quartiles, the 100s, 25, 50, 75. Put it right on those numbers and you're doubling your exposure. So now we'll go to mistake number 6. And that is asking for a price reduction. So in mistake number 2, we already learned that we shouldn't use the term price reduction or drop the price because they think that's giving away their money, their equity, and the worth or value of their home. So we, number one, don't do that. We use the term reposition. But the other thing is, I was trained to, when I list the home, go ahead and set up this reposition strategy for 30 days from now. So, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, if we haven't received the response we want from the marketplace within 30 days and we're at 400, then I'm going to suggest that at 30 days we go to 375. Well, I was taught to do that. But what I've learned over these 37 years is that is also an example of me having a crystal ball of where this market's going to be in 30 days. And I don't know. I don't know. So it's much better if I wait and set up the meeting, but not the number. Not what we're going to do, but set up the meeting at that 30-day mark. So let's go to the next slide. And I suggest that you talk to the seller about a test market. A test market is a number of days or a number of showings, whichever comes first. Okay. So what I typically do in a really rapid market, it's a 21-day or 10 showing. In a normal market, it's 30 days or 10 showings, whichever one comes first. And I'm guessing you'll all agree with me that if I have 10 showings in the first 2 or 3 days, I've created a lot of excitement. But if I have no offers, there's no urgency, which means we're close but no cigar. So let's teach the seller how to do this. So the next slide, please. What we'll do is set up a directional meeting at the listing appointment. You put it in your calendar. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we're going to do a test market to see how the market is responding to you. And I'm going to use today's market. I would be using 21 days, 10 showings. What I want to do is set up a meeting with you on day 21. And during that 3 weeks, I'm going to teach you to read the market's response so that you have a clue as to what to do on day 21 if the market has not responded the way you wanted it to. And there are basically 4 different responses. Number 1, your home will sell within the 21 days. We did everything right. Now, response number 2, and the next best, is we get heavy traffic on your home, heavy in-person, steady in-person showings. We have a lot of traffic on the internet. We have steady in-person showings and maybe multiple showings by the same buyer. They come back. But you know what? No one has offered to buy your home. That tells me we're close, but no cigar. So if that's the market's response, then I'm going to suggest on day 21 when we meet that your response would be, if you have the time and the money, sit tight where we are to see if we get an acceptable offer in the next 21 days. But that's only if you have the time and the money. If you need to move sooner and this is costing you too much in either your lifestyle or financially, then we might want to reposition at that point. But if you've got the time and money, I'm going to suggest you sit tight because we've created excitement. All right. So let's click and unveil the next response. The next would be, what if we're only getting sporadic showings, in-person showings on your house? So we've got some traffic on the internet, but people aren't choosing to come look at your home in droves, right? They're just dripping in, like a showing this week and a showing next week. It's very sporadic. We have no acceptable offers, no repeat showings. Tells me we're further off. What I would suggest at that point is on day 21, we make a minor reposition of your home. And depending on the price, I'm going out of role play here and talking to you agent to agent. Depending on the price range, you might want to take this $5,000 out, because if you're in the 300 and above price point, which you probably are where you are, that's not going to be a drop in the bucket. So you need to make it bigger. But a minor reposition means it could be somewhere between that. Let's say they're at 400, between 400 and 375, somewhere in between. And Mr. and Mrs. Seller, with a minor reposition, we can't expect miracles because we're offering your home to the same group of buyers who we've been offering it to. But at least we're bringing new attention to it. And let's see if that might work. Now, let's click and unveil number 3. The worst case scenario is we get slow or no in-person showings on your home. And if that happens, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm going to suggest that you consider Notice I'm never telling them what to do. Never corner anybody because they will push back. I would suggest that you consider a strategic reposition to the next price range to attract a whole new group of buyers. What I mean by that, if we're starting at 400, the next strategic price range would be 375, because now anyone searching 350 to 375 will see your home, and anyone searching 375 to 400 will see your home. So we want to stay on those price points to attract a new group of buyers rather than just offering it to the same people. So I hope that makes sense to everybody. What I did, I just took this information and I put it on a sheet, and it went in my listing packet, and I left it with the sellers so that they knew how to measure the response from the market and consider in their own mind what their response is going to be before I ever meet with them on day 21 or day 30, whenever my directional meeting. And I love the term directional meeting because it's like, okay, if the marketplace isn't responding, we as a team need to figure out what direction we're going. I like it so much better than telling them up front, if this doesn't happen by this date, here's what we're going to do. Because we're backing them into a corner, number one. Number two, we're predicting the future of the market, which we really can't do. So next slide, please. I've got a tip for you on, so here's what I would do. I would practice your new dialogues. I would view the Zillow on coachjackie.com. I would go do the video on Vimeo and learn how to make these lists so that you could change your CMA up into a different presentation that means a lot to them, and they can visually see everything instead of us just constant mouth action talking to them. And now I've got a really great gift for you. You can start today, because what I have is I've got product that I've been selling that I had Jackie, if you want to forward that slide, that would be great. There's your video on unsold and sold. And again, I had a professional recording guy come into a 3-hour class on this that dives much deeper on how to read the market and talk to the seller, much deeper. So I captured that and I put it on CDs, and then I created a book of forms for listing and pricing strategy forms that are unique and relevant. And you can take them and take my copyright off the bottom. You can customize them with your brand. You can do anything you want. And my CDs are $40. My books of forms, these are electronic. So you get them via email. You just change them the way you want. They're $40 each. But what I told Charlie I would do for you is a flash sale. So here's what we're going to do. And this is unprecedented. We've never done it before. So Jackie, let's forward this slide, if you will. The 2-day flash sale, you buy, I don't care which one you want to say you buy either the forms for $40 or the CDs. It's 2 CDs, 3 full hours of all this stuff, plus much more. Buy either one of them for $40, and I'm going to give you 2 other things for $1. So let's hit the button again, Jackie. So you will get my 3-hour CDs on negotiations, which people just love. These are top sellers of mine, plus the pricing CDs, plus all those forms to customize for, next slide, Jackie, $41. $41. This will be open. Today is Tuesday. I will keep it open until Thursday. Well, I have it till midnight Friday because our first one was on a Wednesday. So, $41 till midnight this Friday. I'll keep that link open. It's tinyurl.com/Coach Jackie 2021 sale. $41, and that includes shipping anywhere in the US. So you could even buy it for a gift for somebody you know who sells in Oregon. I don't care. I'll ship them anywhere. Unprecedented. It's $120 worth of product plus the shipping costs that I absorb for $41. So anybody who wants to do that, jump in, because we spent an hour, maybe an hour and 10 minutes together. Both of these are 3-hour CDs plus all the forms that you customize that are different. They're unique. Set yourself apart. And with that, I have to say thank you.
I think our agents will definitely take advantage of it.
Yeah, we've never, when I came there, it was $40 a piece. So it was $120. So it's unprecedented. And you know what? Here's how I came up with it. 2021, I thought 2020 was such a rough year for so many people, including my family. I was thinking about 2021. I thought, you know what I'm going to do? 20 plus 21 is 41. I'm just going to do a flash sale for these guys so that you can dig deeper, because 1 hour didn't give me time to do some of the stuff that I think will set you apart in your community.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you so much. This is incredible. And on the, so Jackie just posted it on the slide. It says February 5th, but we're referring to today's date. So the 12th. So $41 for all three before midnight Friday, February 12th. So definitely check that out. We will also provide the link to our associates as well. And Jackie, thank you for joining us today for part 2. And we look forward to, having you join us again.
I would love to. Eurism, thank you so much. And Jackie C., thank you. Great job on clicking. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you all, and hope that you have a wonderful week.
Yep. Stay safe. Bye-bye.